Let's talk about their layers. Layers of goblin layers are pretty unique and kind of classic, right? You definitely want to get a goblin layer right. So why don't you want me to
Goblin Lairs. So people think goblins, oh, they're nothing. That you can kill them. Goblin Lairs, they will destroy you if you are dumb. They will. Goblin
Yeah.
Lairs are extremely dangerous. They even rival like dragon lairs. They are
Wow.
dangerous
Yeah.
because there's a bunch of goblins and you're walking into so many traps. You're eventually gonna miss one,
Yeah, we
and it's
talked
gonna hurt.
about two things. We talked about how cunning they are, right? So I mean, if they live somewhere, if they can make good traps in the middle of the forest, you better believe they're gonna have
Yeah.
good traps where they
Yeah.
live.
No.
And then also they breed like rats. So let's say you set off one of their alarms. I mean, you're like within an army of goblins in a day. I mean,
Yeah.
you may
They will
look at a
gang up on
chamber and see nothing, but within the walls are hundreds of goblins. There could be. So you don't want them to start coming out like an ant pile. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like another race that's very similar to goblins are kobolds. They
Yeah.
kind of do the same. They're like these little dragon. Imagine like goblins, but they're like a dragon, dude.
Yeah, they're very similar.
That's very similar. But like kobolds are probably the better trap crafters out of the two. But goblins also use something else at their disposal when they're in lairs. This also goes with like their battle strategies. But they are beast masters. So when
Yeah.
you walk in, it's not just goblins. There's gonna be wolves, bears, lions, tigers. There's gonna be like in any habitat. There's gonna be ape predators there too.
That's
So
it. I
there will
never
be tanky beasts.
I have never seen lions, but I'm sure they can.
Well, yeah,
The most common,
yeah.
if you want to be like classic, would be wolves slash wargs and rats.
Yep, no
Yeah.
rats. That's a big one too. Rats, yeah, no, they'll actually use rats too for sieges to spread like diseases and stuff. But,
Yeah.
rats are pretty.
And it's very kind of symbolic of them.
Yeah.
I mean, because wolves are these pack hunters, so are goblins. Goblins are weak individually, but put them together and they're not so weak. So wolves, and then they're also, in terms of their whole society, like we talked about,
They're rats.
literal rats.
They're
Yeah.
literal rat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but their layers, some, they can be in caves.
Caves.
That's the most typical one. They can be in old forts they took
Yeah,
over, so a
ruins.
castle, a ruin.
Yeah.
They could be in other monster layers that they drove off. That which is very rare, but like maybe there's so many goblins that this giant hill giant camp had to get out of there. So
Yeah.
that they have a giant.
Typically,
hill
it's
giant camp.
somewhere kind of safe. I don't want to say cozy, but it's like either in the ground or somewhere where they can like burrow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
exactly. So it's kind of like the most habitat you'll see goblins. They don't really like hot places that much, like super hot places like
Okay.
deserts or like
Oh,
or like
right.
swamps. They don't really like that. So they like normally just just general forests,
Yeah.
hill or plains with hilly plains. That's actually probably where you'll see goblins the most. Hilly
Okay.
plains.
Well, I mean, forest is definitely.
Forest is a big one too,
Yeah,
but like
big.
most people think like, oh, it's the forest, but it's actually hilly plains. That's what they prefer, but it's definitely not the safest.
Okay.
But that's the most comfortable for them.
I see.
Um,
In terms of inside their layers, it's very filthy. So if you go in,
oh yeah, it's disgusting.
it's disgusting. That can just add some little flavor to when you're describing the layer. You definitely want to describe it as just completely gross. I mean, think they are rats they are the humanoid rats. So they're just breeding constantly. They're eating constantly. They're not cleaning up. So yeah, definitely dirty. This is the thing I think is extremely important in terms of goblin layers, and I have found is missed a lot. Most people get the traps. They'll throw in a couple. That's good. I think there should probably be more traps typically.
a lot more traps.
A lot of DMs I think put traps in the beginning. So like you'll have like the alarm tripwire, or you have like some whatever net traps, or you'll have the wolves. And then once those are tripped, it's almost like there's no more traps anywhere, right? Like you'll just like combat will start and then it's like, oh, traps don't exist. So in general, a DM should probably, to be more accurate, put traps in more places. So You may trip the trap here and fight, and then once you walk into the next room, you're tripping more traps. So traps are kind of all over. But something that I don't see very much is the secret tunnels. Those are not played very often.
Yes.
There's like goblins are maze makers. They make mazes on purpose to make their lairs extremely complex and to their own advantage. And so in combat, you really should have goblins disappearing and reappearing on different places, right? Because there's just all these tunnels, and if you have like a halfling, definitely give them the ability to go in these tunnels.
But those tunnels are also trapped.
Those tunnels will also be trapped, yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes those tunnels will be the only way to get to certain parts of the lair.
That is true, yeah, no. Like, when you brought that up with, like, the tunnels, so generally goblins, they're lazy, they want to relax, so they don't really do that much. But kobolds, they are the masters at that stuff. So goblins they're kind of like, they're smarter than kobolds, but kobolds are the best at, like, making those tunnels, best at making traps. So goblins would actually, like, take kobolds out. They'll, like, outnumber the kobolds. Kobolds also breed like rats, but not as much as goblins. But, like, goblins, they kind of draw inspiration from kobolds, too. And vice versa. So basically, like, when we get into our kobolds episode, we'll talk about that too. But those tunnels, like, if, let's say, the goblins stole your magical items, you have to go back and find them. If no one's small enough, you're not getting those magical items back. They're going to be in, like, some random back room. And like, in the little tunnels, like, you're not going to do anything, like...
Yeah, and their treasure room might be in a secret chamber. There's secret chambers all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a tapestry, there's tons of times where you pull a tapestry and there's going to be a secret tunnel behind it. So, I mean, you just hide that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
In Goblin Lairs. And that makes Goblin Lairs a lot more fun as well.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, if you're going to go into a Goblin Lair as a party, the DM should have placed lots of traps, lots of secret chambers and tunnels, and be ready to absolutely destroy you if you mess up.
Yes,
because there's so many goblins.
Yeah, no, you do not want to, like, get punished. Also, goblins, like, in the lair, they'll use their traps. So, for example, a goblin will lead, they'll run across, like a bridge or something, who knows, They'll run across, and they'll wait for the big barbarian to run across, and they'll just cut the rope, and the bridge falls, and the barbarian dies. Like, they are ruthless. Like, as goblins, you should show no mercy.
Oh, yeah, no mercy.
I mean, we'll get into this.
Go out of your way to show
they
merciless
do not care.
behavior.
Yeah, merciless behavior. Yeah, so, that's basically Goblin Lairs. Traps. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Traps. So now I guess we can go, so when you walk in the lair, what's their combat strategies?
Well, actually, one more thing, and that's just some more flavor. If you walk into a Goblin Lair, there's going to be lots of kids. Because they just have lots of kids. Oh, and so there will be tons of kids all over the lair. Perhaps there may be in a more secret chamber, but I think the kids can be an interesting factor in terms of, like, you don't want to kill kids necessarily. Maybe the party doesn't.
But the kids will try.
Putting them in there, putting them in there will make it more morally interesting. You know what I mean? It's like, we're getting attacked by all these little kids, all these little goblin children. You know what I mean? And if you describe them as literally goblin children, right then the player's mind will say, well, I don't want to kill a child unless they are like a chaotic evil or even just like a neutral. Probably,
Well, I mean, actually, sorry for this one last thing. So when your halfling gets through the tunnels, all the booby traps, and enters the treasure room, most people think gold and like jewels and like a dragon's lair, But when you open the chest, it's like, oh, there's elven ears. Like, it's gross crap. That's their treasure. You might find some magical items, maybe some money, but it's like, you open the chest, and, when a goblin sleeps at night with his chest, you try to steal his stuff. You open the chest, you might have, like, one poison vial, but you find a dwarf beard that they skinned, or, like, a human head.
Yeah, anything actually valuable will probably be in the boss's chamber. Because the boss, as the powerful one, will say, I want it.
What about, exactly. Even for the boss, though, like, if it's a goblin or hobgoblin or a bugbear, like, this is the same thing with orcs, too. They don't really value monetary money as much. They do, like, not as much as, like, other creatures, but, like, their most prized thing is, like, oh, look at this human hand I got, Jeff. And Jeff's like, oh, that's a sick hand. I got a dwarf beard over here, you know?
Yeah.
And while they're, like, throwing away, oh, look, a silver ingot. Like, they would definitely keep it, but, like, they would most likely prize the winning of the beard more than the ingot. So, you know, that's kind of like what they would want more is so that's kind of like a little fun thing to put the treasures to throw off your players. You open the chest and it's just full of body parts.
Yeah, they do all that work.
Or like something random, like a wooden statue of like something random. You're like, are you kidding me? I thought there was like gold. You know, like you know, definitely just throw off your players. You know, they're goblins. They're gross. You know, you might find like rotted food. That's their treasure.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, if you're a player, there's not much in it for you to enter a goblin lair. It's really just...
Unless they just steal your stuff. I mean, there is magical items probably in there, like lesser ones. There will be money, you know, some money, maybe like at most 300 gold. At most. That's like pushing it. But, you know, you might find like goblin armor, but like you're not going to wear that disgusting stuff because it's gross. But I say we get into combat strategies.
Yes, okay. So after all of that, how does it influence their combat strategies? Yeah.
Yes. Well, first things first, traps again. They are abusing the traps card.
Yeah.
So much when they fight. They will use it for everything.
Yeah, you'll probably encounter a trap before you encounter them. They might be... I mean, they ambush, right? They set traps. So maybe your fighter gets caught in like a tripwire that sends them up into the trees. And then they attack.
Yeah.
And so you've lost your fighter and they're shooting arrows at the fighter who can't defend themselves. And...
No, exactly. Like, a general strategy is they take out the spellcasters. Literally everything knows if you let a spellcaster do its stuff, they're all dead. So they take out the spellcasters. So this is a little fun example. So let's say your caravan or your party group is in the forest on a path. So you're in the path. You should have goblins surrounding them in this ambush. You should have one goblin holding on to like 3 wolves. Mm-hmm. You should have one goblins in the trees with bows in the bushes, and you should have traps set up. So there might be a rolling stone, and there's pits.
Yeah, they've had time to prepare. Pits. So don't just set them on the side like they just got there.
Yeah,
like they've been waiting there for probably hours.
Yeah, no, they have. So they've been waiting a while. So let's say your group, we have a rogue, a sorcerer, a fighter, and a ranger. They're ranged, all right? Okay. So basically, when combat initiates, the fighter is going to fall into a pit trap. He falls in, easy to get out, but the goblin with the wolves rolls down a stone. A big stone, and it rolls down, and it hits the fighter, and he's put there. And he has to make a strength check that's really high. It's a big boulder.
Right.
So, you're going to have to get out somehow, and it's going to take time. So that gives them time to start killing off the other people. Arrows will start to fly, hitting the spellcaster, probably the other rogue. The rogue will probably dodge it. The ranger will probably try and look and shoot at it. So goblins will die. But, okay, so let's say the spellcaster sits there and he tries to hide. When he hides, he falls into another booby trap. It's a bear trap. Keeps him there in the forest.
Rip.
The ranger shoots arrows, but he realizes the goblins aren't there anymore. They're using their very good stealth modifier, their +6, to run and hide somewhere else. So they shoot and they hide. They get out of there.
Yeah, so you may see an arrow come from somewhere, but the goblin's not there anymore.
Yeah, they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And then
there may actually be a trap where they were.
Yeah, no, exactly. So while the spellcaster's panicking about the bear trap, the Beastmaster releases his wolves. The wolves will go after the spellcaster, making him panic. Since they have the pack tactics feat, which gives him advantage on hit, the spellcaster should be going down soon. The ranger should get shot up. He's probably not moving. The rogue is probably trying to stealth around and hide and try to assassinate some goblins. He'll probably kill some goblins, but he should probably fall in some more traps. So he goes through the bushes, and then a log hits him directly in the face.
Right.
That is goblins.
Basically. So yeah, that's how you can take these little 7 HP little minions and make them deadly.
Make them very deadly.
Yeah.
And when the fighter just comes out of the boulder, the sorcerer, the ranger are down. The rogue is almost dead. And they just unleash arrows on the fighter.
Yeah, the rogue's nowhere to be seen.
Basically, like, you just take out the big guy, kill all the weak ones, then you gang up on the big dude.
Yeah.
That's kind of an example of goblins. But yeah, so
No, yeah, that's
traps,
a really good
ambushes,
example.
Very good, yeah. Use your goblins.
Yeah, so I guess you could describe that. So, okay, that was a very good example. That would be an awesome. I would love to play that. I don't think I've
No,
had an
I mean
encounter like
that's
that.
also a very dangerous one. Probably another example which most players will not like. So I actually advise not to do this. Kobolds can do this too. If you want to go the most realism, they would do this. So let's say you go in the lair, you're killing them all. One goblin presses the button, he runs, the whole cave collapses, everyone's dead. They would do that. They would self-destruct. They would do that.
They probably wouldn't do that unless
they know they're gonna lose. That's
perhaps, So yeah, there. If you really want to have a total party kill, go ahead and do
TBK. Yeah, do that. That's if you want more realism, do that. But yeah, so make sure you use your traps, ambushes. They will never run and attack people. They will wait until you come to them.
But to analyze that example, so in essence, hit and run tactics are goblins. So they will
skirmishers.
If you like, so in your example, there weren't really any goblins that drew their scimitars and charged.
Nope.
They don't want to do that. They're gonna shoot you from far away until they have to come up close. But they're not going to. They don't have to. Right. They're gonna shoot you. They're gonna run. They're gonna shoot you. They're gonna run because they know if they get hit, they die.
Exactly.
So the whole point is to kill you in ways that don't hurt them in any sense. They're not tanks. So hit and run tactics. And they are good at hiding, so they should be fine. They should be able to do it. Even if let's say the rogue gets out there and finds a goblin, that goblin is like its own rogue. So let the goblin try to hide and see if it can deceive the rogue, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, goblins will probably die, though.
Probably, yeah. It's the roll of the dice. But they have +6 to stealth, so
that is true.
That can help a lot.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yes, and they will fight when they gang up on the fighter at the end. They will all do it at once, and so they will use their numbers and they will take down the fighter. If the fighter, let's say, cornered a goblin, or not cornered, but were to come up to a goblin, that goblin is not going to fight him. The goblin was out of there. He's going to run.
He's going to disengage. Yeah,
completely disengage. They can do that as a bonus action. So that's again feeding into what a goblin does. If your party somehow gets the upper hand and like the boulder is pushed, the wizard gets defended and it starts mowing them down with magic missiles, the goblins will run away. They're just gonna run. They're gonna be like, all right, this didn't work. We'll meet them later down the road.
Yeah, no, actually, that's another strategy, hit and run. So let's say the first one didn't work. The party's like, all right, guys, let's continue down the road and we'll camp there. They'll camp, but they realize they're in another ambush place. They will even wait until it's nighttime.
Yeah, they'll follow.
So they'll start healing, and once they're at camp, giant boulder again rolls down the hill, running over someone that's sleeping. And then above the trees, you see archers. They start firing. The sorcerer gets him. He starts running, and he falls into a spike trap and dies.
Rip.
Rip. Your spellcaster's dead. That's a rip. The rogue panics. Everyone starts to panic. They start running around, and
you better have dark vision.
Exactly. If they start running, the goblins are going to punish them. So if they start running, they're going to send wolves after them. Wolves will take them down. If they stay, all they're going to do is just sit there and just shoot arrows. Like, they're not going to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if the fighter just sits there with his shield, he will eventually die. He has to run into the darkness.
Yeah, and if you play goblins this brutally, right, against your players, you're not doing anything wrong. Goblins are smart creatures.
Yeah, no,
in this sense.
This is what they do.
Yeah,
this
is why goblins are so famous, because
they're annoying.
There's a reason why the whole Lord of the Rings party was so adamant in avoiding them. They're not these little creatures just to laugh at. They are, but not when it's their turf. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So we mentioned scimitar short bows. That is the typical goblin, but to just add some more variety, they can also typically have picks, morning stars, short swords, slings, and spears. So if you want to throw those in as well.
By the way, for any creature in the dungeon manual, so for guards or anything that has a weapon, you can change the weapon.
Oh, sure.
You can have...
And the ones I mentioned are ones that would be common for a goblin.
Yeah, common for a goblin, yeah. So, it could be literally anything. Like, maybe one goblin, he's, super good, and he has a long bow. Like, he's just, he's a lasher. He's like a goblin commander, and he has a +1 short bow maybe. You know, you can give some of the goblins like slow enchanted items.
Oh yeah,
Like, that would be cool too. You can maybe make a goblin spellcaster. That would be bad. You know, if you.
Oh, goblins, they can do magic.
Yeah, they can.
And they very much value magic. If you're gonna have a goblin boss, that goblin boss could very well be the boss because they know magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like one spell that's pretty annoying called the Crown of Madness. So let's say all the heroes, none of them die, they stayed around. The Goblin leader can put Crown of Madness, which basically means the fighter has to make a Wisdom saving throw. If he fails, he just randomly attacks someone next to him. So since they're all at range, this Goblin Master, he's going to be doing as many slots as he can. So the fighter will look at his friend, stab him in the neck, do hopefully not critical damage, but that can definitely
so I mean, yet another way that goblins can be extremely deadly.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
there's lots of ways you can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is combat strategies. That's basically the end of lore.